Hi, this is Rabbi Chaim Kaufman. Welcome to our 143rd installment in the Torah portion of the week. We are holding by Parshas Shoftim. Talks about the establishment of just courts. Talks about death penalty for an idol worshiper, the rebellious elder, a king in Israel, priestly gifts, prophecy, cities of refuge. A lot of things to talk about here. But I'm going to mention one thing. That the Torah says, chapter 17, verse 19. Right? The Torah says it shall be with him, and he shall read it from all the days of his life, talking about the king, that he has the Torah with him, and he'll read it all the days of his life, so he will learn to fear Hashem, his God, to observe all the words of the Torah, and these decrees to perform them. Verse 20, so his heart does not become haughty over his brethren, he's not arrogant, and not turn from the commandment right or left, so he prolong years over his kingdom, he and his sons amid Israel. So the Torah says that the king himself has a Torah, right? He walks around with the Torah, in order that he should learn from it, and he should have fear of God. So it says, Mori v'Rebbe, Harav Hagon Moshe Torah Machlita, should be well. He brings down in Tam V'das, his commentary on the Chumash, and he says like this. He says that when a person learns Torah, what is the purpose? That is what we're going to speak about. Right? What's my purpose in life? Purpose of Torah, of learning Torah, is to know it for itself. Right? Not just to know it like any academic subject. And the purpose is to bring a person, to bring his heart to fear of heaven, to Yirat Shamayim. When he has wisdom, he has fear in his heart, he does good deeds, and that's what the command of the king is, to read the Torah all the days of his life, so he's going to be learned from it, and he's going to have fear. Now, according to this, simple explanation is, king's going to walk around with the Torah, he's going to learn the Torah, not for the sake of just getting ideas, getting wisdom. As Rav Moshe Schneider, my Rebbe's Rebbe, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, would say, don't be a frummer student. Don't learn Torah like mathematics. The whole purpose of learning Torah over here is what? To put in your heart fear of God. For you to learn. For you to give over to others to do good things. So my Rebbe then says, in the prayer of Olet Zion, that we say in the morning service, after Ashrei, after Shmona Esrei, we say, Hu yiftach libeinu b'toiraso v'yasem b'libeinu avas v'yiraso v'laso v'tzonu avdo b'lev shalom. We say that God should open our hearts with His Torah, place in our hearts love of Torah, fear of Torah, doing God's will, serving Him with a full heart. So he says, what's the whole purpose of Torah? Purpose of Torah is to open a person's heart for the sake of love and for the sake of fear. And the more he learns Torah, the more he opens his heart. And God's going to fill it up. But the problem is, what if someone learns Torah like another wisdom? Not for the sake of getting love of Torah, love of God, fear of God. It's not good. He's got to check himself. A person has an obligation. My Rebbe says that he's got to check himself at all times to make sure he's learning for the right reason. And if he doesn't, there's no blessing in it. It's going to cause him real problems. And he'll be learning like a frummer student. So let's break down. First thing he says is that the more a person learns, it's going to bring him to fear of heaven. The more wisdom, the more fear of heaven, the more good deeds he's going to have. And he's going to do. Now the obvious question is, how does that work? But a person's learning Baba Kama. Right, learning tractate Baba Kama. It's all about This ox scores that ox. How much damage does he do? What does he have to pay? Right? There are other aspects of damage. So a person can get lost and say, wow, it doesn't really speak to me. Ox is goring. We don't have, people don't use oxes today. So you could learn it in a realistic way. Someone caused someone else damage, got in a car accident, damages property, whatever it is. What's he going to have to pay? What's he obligated in? But see, the more a person learns, the smaller they are. Why do I say the smaller they are? Because they realize that they're an infinitesimally small speck of cosmic dust. They realize their actions, how can they compare to God? How can they compare to what He does in the world? How can they compare to God's role in nature? Good question. But we have to relate to what we learn and put it into our hearts. And make it real. And enjoy, not learn it like I'm learning mathematics. How many people have told me they want to learn Kabbalah, more things that are esoteric? But obviously you need the basics. You can't learn calculus without algebra. Without trig. It doesn't go anywhere. You don't have the basics. So we'll speak in a deep way without talking about Kabbalah. So the more a person learns, imagine one of the greatest experiences I ever had learning was learning the Sugi, was learning a piece of Talmud, and learning it from beginning to end. Meaning, you look at this piece of Talmud, what it says, try to understand it to the best of your ability, see what Rashi says, see what Tosfos says, see what the other commentaries say, the early commentators, later commentators, and then you look at the Shulchan Aruch. Then you look at what halacha l'maisa. Right? What is the practical halacha that comes out from this? So you're going to say, learning something like that gave you an epiphany? I'll tell you why. Because, at a certain level, whatever a person understands, right? Imagine people greater than you, a billion times greater than you, all of a sudden they open up a world. You look at Rashi. Rashi explains, simple explanation. But when you look at Rashi and you look back at the Talmud, what's he getting at? What's bothering him? What's he commenting on? Now usually if you're thinking in these terms, you're going to hit most of the questions the other commentaries ask. So then comes along Tosfos. Tosfos will ask a question on Rashi, based on other sources, and either try and answer up for Rashi or say why Rashi's wrong. And then you got other commentators, you got the Rosh, Rabbeinu Asher, right, one of the early commentators, you got the Rambam, the Ramban, the Ritva, the Rashba. And then you start getting the later commentaries, you get the Kesos, you get the Torah, the Beis Yosef. Right, they're going to speak about halacha. And then you get to the commentators on the Shulchan Aruch. You have the Magen Avraham, you have the Shach, the Taz. And then bring it down to halacha l'maisa. So what is the practical halacha? Now, when you're learning these type of things, it's a little bit hard to fathom, okay, talking about oxes goring, causing damage, or other people causing damage. You got to make it real. Right? You have to make it real, like your life depends on it. I remember learning and going through from beginning to end. Right? Seeing what halacha l'maisa, seeing what the practical law was. After going through the early commentators, later commentaries, through the Talmud. So why did I have an epiphany? I had an epiphany because I saw how the puzzle pieces fit. I understood the intricacy and was able to paint a picture and to make it real. And to know, okay, according to this side, halacha would be like this. According to that side, the halacha would be like this. Practically, it's like this and like this. So why they disagree? It's higher level. Understanding what they say is one thing. Seeing why they disagree is a whole different level. Right? It's a whole different thing. But what did that do? It showed me how deep Torah is. Without Kabbalah. Showed me how unbelievably deep it is. But not only that, from the earlier and the later commentaries, they dug out layers. Explaining, expanding what the Talmud meant and what the ramifications are is mind-boggling. And then you see how one's against the other and how it manifests itself practically according to Jewish law. So when you look at it, yeah, you have your own take. How would you look at it? Would you go like Rashi? Would you go like Tosfos? Right? You have to put yourself in it. You have to use your mind. You have to think. But it opens up a whole world. It's not about just going through things and acquiring knowledge. You get knowledge through it, true. But did it go through you? Did it penetrate? Did it make an imprint? Or as my Rebbe here says, did he learn it like a student? Did he learn it like mathematics, history? Did he learn it like some academic subject? You can enjoy it by learning it that way. You gain knowledge, it strengthens the mind, makes you think. That's all true. But that's not what Torah is. Torah is about what we say in the Shema. Lilmod or lamed lishmor v'lasos. Lilmod, you learn it, meaning Torah. Lamed, you teach it if you have the ability to. Lishmor, you guard it, v'lasos, you do. You keep it. It's not about philosophy. Not about jumping through these type of hoops. It's practical. God wants to know what you did, not what you thought about doing. It's about action. See, when a person learns, and you learn the right way, and you learn from the right people, your heart gets opened. You open your heart, you let it penetrate. When it penetrates, you say, wow, this is unbelievable. This could not have been done by man. Given over. Has to be godly. But that's only if it makes a roshem. That's only if it makes an imprint. But see, when you open your heart and you try and learn to the best of your ability, whatever the subject is, it's going to lead to Ava and Yira. It'll lead to Ava, to love, because you enjoy it. It's geschmack. Or if you're English, you say it's geschmack. It's enjoyable. If you like chocolate, like tasting a chocolate bar. If you like ice cream, it's beautiful. And you see the pieces in the puzzle. What does that cause you to do? I want you to learn more. I want you to keep more mitzvahs. It's contagious. But at the same time, what does it show you? It shows you God's awesomeness in the world. Normally when we speak about God's awesomeness, we speak about nature. We speak about the human body. We'll speak about quote-unquote natural disasters. But if I learn how to shake a lulav, and when you shake it, and how, and this and that, is that showing God's greatness? Depends how you understand it. A person shakes the lulav, for instance, and you realize you shake it. You have to see my video on how to shake a lulav, right? But you shake it up to the side, backwards, to the other side. You shake it up and you shake it down. Looks a little bit strange. Maybe you feel like a pagan. Maybe. But if you understand a little bit of what you're doing, very simple explanation, you are showing God's dominion in the world, above and below. Now, when a person does that, imagine if you're holding somewhere in the world. Forget about Kabbalah. You understand there's a mitzvah you're doing. And God knows the mitzvahs that He gave us are to draw us close to Him. You're going to say, I'm gonna shake these palm fronds with a lemon on steroids, my esrog, and my willows, and my hadassim, my myrtle leaves. And you're going to say, I'm shaking up the world. You're going to say, come on. You look like a pagan. Right? You do those shanas in synagogue. You walk around the bima once during the service on Hoshana Rabbah. The last day of Sukkot, you do it 7 times. Commemorating what was done in the Beis HaMikdash. Now, if you have a chance to think, without getting lost in what you're doing, trying to find your place to walk around and not drop anything, come to an amazing conclusion. You feel God's presence there. Why? Because you're taking your weapons, your spiritual weapons, my lulav, my esrog, and that's what God wants from me. He wants me to bring it to Him, meaning on the holiday. And He wants me to shake it. He wants me to sit in the sukkah. And even though the weather's not so great in most places, you're sitting there for the sake of the mitzvah, realizing this world is not the ultimate faith. Forget it. It's not the ultimate. You're living in the Tzil Dehem Nusa in the sukkah. What's the Tzil Dehem Nusa? You're living in the shade of belief because you're living in a booth that could fall over at any time. I mean, obviously you have to make it strong so it doesn't. And you have a thatched roof, palm fronds, etc. And you do everything you would do in the sukkah, you do in your house. But you realize what I'm doing. That is Koheles Ecclesiastes says, it's all hevel, it's all vanity. This world is nothing. It's about doing mitzvahs. It's about drawing close to God. So if you sit in the sukkah and you see the nice pictures, decorations, blowing in the wind, might be a little bit cold out, but you're acknowledging this isn't the real world that we're living in. Meaning, I'm sitting in my sukkah. I'm showing beyond the shadow of a doubt I'm doing it for the sake of the mitzvah, because it's cold normally. Who's going to sit in the sukkah when it's cold? But I'm sitting in the sukkah for the sake of the mitzvah. And I'm basking in God's glory, knowing that this world is not the ultimate. That's why you read Koheles. You read Ecclesiastes on Sukkot. That's the connection. We're living in a temporary world. And I'm sitting there basking in all that, knowing that this is the real world. Meaning in my sukkah. And I learn in my sukkah. I eat in my sukkah as long as it's not raining. It's not so cold. Now, I've just described something. Anyone sat in a sukkah may say, yeah, maybe not. But that's the mentality we should have. I mean, here in Israel, weather is usually very good. Sometimes it can be very hot. This year, right, Sukkot is the latest it's going to be. Mid-October, weather should be nice. In other places, it'll be cold, coldish. Probably rain also. But when you're sitting in the sukkah, what am I doing? I'm taking all that holiness and I'm going to put it inside of me. That's what my Rebbe here is talking about. Because when I learn and I understand what I'm doing, even at a base level, God knows what's best for us. This looks a little bit silly in a certain way. Taking my palm fronds, my myrtle leaves, my lemon on steroids, sitting in a booth, it's cold. People don't like to sit in the cold. Some places it could be snow. But if you're able to sit in the sukkah, and you're able to bask in God's glory and enjoy, doesn't that bring you the love of God? Doesn't that bring you also the fear of God or what's going on? That this world's only temporary, says Ecclesiastes. So my Rebbe's saying, you open up yourself, you learn a little bit. Or you learn a lot about what's going on. Isn't the holiday going to mean a lot more? Aren't you going to get a lot more out of it? 100%. But people may complain. Listen, there are bees. It's humid. Right? Certain places it's humid. It's warm. Some people say it's too cold. All we do is complain. God says, I give you a mitzvah once a year. Sit in the sukkah. Wouldn't you think if I learned what a sukkah is, what it means, what it represents, then when I shake the lulav, it has a heck of a lot more meaning, doesn't it? Doesn't the knowledge want me to go more and do more? Be better? But at the same time realize how awesome our responsibility is in the awesomeness of God? Yes. I'll answer your question. Yes. That's what it means over here. The more knowledge you have, and I can tell you from my classes what people have said, that there's only so much you can learn on your own. You know, one person told me they've been learning for years and years. You know, on their own, didn't compare to 1 month learning by me. Why? Because I do my best to make it real. To show where we should be. What we should be doing. That's called open up your heart. That's all you need to do. That's what God wants to see. You open up a little bit, God does the rest. So is sitting in a sukkah an unbelievable experience? It can be. Learning about two oxes goring each other can also be. It depends how you learn it. But it has to be real. All the great Musar giants, giants of ethics, what do they tell you? Make it real. Live it, breathe it. Don't have a disconnect between the mind and the heart. It's kind of hard because different aspects of the soul, as the Orthodox says, in the gate of fear of heaven, you're at a disadvantage. Because different aspects of the soul running after desire, running after fame. But the soul wants spirituality. And imagine when the soul gets it. And when the soul has an epiphany, gets strong, then the evil inclination comes strong and tries to beat it down. So anything we learn, we've got to try and implement. We've got to try and make it part of our lives. Have to make it real. Because if you don't make it real and it's, okay, this is what I have to do with this, this is what I have to do with that, blah, blah, blah. Just so I'm not going to fry in hell forever. You're going to do it robotically. That's akin to spiritual death. It's not what God wants. God wants a person to work. He wants a person to strive. He wants you to take what you learn and put it into action. And not just learn it up like you're learning anything else. It doesn't have effect on my life. Because a person who does so, that's not Torah. There are people who get a tremendous enjoyment out of learning Talmud, but it doesn't affect them. That's not learning. It's like learning mathematics. There's no effect on my life. They might say, okay, if a person learns Shalom Lishma, right? Shalom Lishma, yeah Lishma. The person learns not for the sake of heaven. Even if he learns it just to enjoy it, it'll have an effect on them, and eventually he'll learn for the sake of heaven. Now, why is that? Because that's the power of Torah. Now, does it happen to everybody? No, it depends. Right? It depends where they're holding, how big their evil inclination is. There'll be people, professors, whatever you want to call them, unbelievable enjoyment of learning, but it has nothing to do with them. Right? You can teach ethics and be unethical. Right? Famous story of Bertrand Russell. So unethical, students called him on. He said, what? So what if I teach ethics? If I taught mathematics, you expect it to be a square? Torah doesn't believe in that. It's not enough to learn. You got to put it into action. You got to live it. You got to breathe it. Because if you don't, then my Rebbe says maybe you're going to fall into this trap. And then the Torah is not a blessing anymore. Torah will be, in this case, called a Sam Hamavis. Cause a person to die. Meaning, you're learning it not for the right reason. And it's not taking you in the right direction. And when that happens, it's game over. Now, even in the Orthodox world, people sitting and learning, question is why. They enjoy what they do. Are they doing it because they just want to duck the army? They're doing it for other reasons, whatever. But are they getting what they need? Is the learning made real? Is their Judaism real? It's not about going through the motions. That's easy. And we can fool ourselves. Because maybe people will learn, they'll enjoy it, but it doesn't change them. It doesn't affect them. So you say, then what's the point? Well, you also have to learn Musar. You have to learn other things. But it should lead you, all things being equal. What should it do? It should lead you to fear of God and love of God. The love of God is easy because you love what you do. You exemplify what you do. Nothing greater than that. But at the same time, it's an awesome responsibility. You see what God does for us in this world. How the world works. Then you might be paralyzed. You might be afraid to do anything. So you need a balance. You definitely need a balance. But if you want something so bad, and I'm living proof, that if you want something so bad, you have to open yourself up and say, I want it. God, put me in the path. Bring me somebody that can help me. Some people had an unbelievable prophecy come out of Christianity. They don't know where to turn, what to do. Start looking around. And they pray. And they say, God, I've come this far. I finally have seen the light. Seen the light. Now I want you to bring me someone who's going to direct me. Someone who's going to help you. So I've heard a number of times people said, I prayed for this. This is what I wanted. And then I sent them a friend request on Facebook, or they saw a video or something. Or maybe just wanted to suffer and found me that way. But what does that mean? It means that the prayer is sincere. And you open yourself up. You lay yourself down. You say, God, this is what I want. More than anything else, you make it happen because you're the one in charge. You bring me someone who can fire me up. Who can teach me. Who's the real deal. And that's what people get. Because they open themselves up. And then once they start to learn, once the Torah starts to penetrate, then you have the building blocks. And you take it step by step. And when you take it step by step over time, you gain knowledge. You gain understanding. Then it's not to say, oh, what is this? What is that? Now you understand what it is. You start asking other questions. Isn't it true? It says over here like this, or why does it say like this? Different type of question. It's a different level. But why is the person asking the question? Because he wants to get to the truth. He wants to understand. It's not about mental gymnastics. It's about, is this statement true or is it not? And how you learn it and what the practical ramifications are. Yeah, there's a lot of detail. But as we said before, isn't that unbelievably enjoyable? Even with all the difficulty in life, we have to live inspired. Right? Regardless of what goes on in our life. Whatever God throws at us. Because if not, again, a person can go down the wrong path. A person can learn and it doesn't affect him. And maybe he's considered like a former student. And he's learning it like an academic subject. And anybody who does that, it's 100% game over. Can a person be inspired, overcome it? Yes. Is his evil inclination going to let him do it? No. Got to fight. Right, that's the whole point. You open up your heart just a little bit. Like the pin of a needle. God does the rest. But it has to be something, as King Solomon says in Proverbs, it has to be something you're willing to search for more than rubies and emeralds and gold and silver. Got to be the real thing. Can't rest on your laurels. Got to keep growing. Got to keep trying to raise yourself to a higher level. That's good for Rosh Hashanah. But you have to make it real. If it's not real, then you fall into this trap. And the evil inclination grabs you, and very hard to dig out. Because it could be the only reason you're keeping and doing is because I'm afraid I'm going to fry in hell forever. The least I better do it. I better keep it. But I'll ask you, is that really enjoyable? Do you really feel the closeness? Do you really feel the enjoyment? Imagine the whole family gets into cooking, baking, getting the sukkah ready, decorations, clean the house for Passover. Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun. Right? You act out the Haggadah, you sit down at the Passover Seder. You have extended family there. Telling over the story just like your forefathers did. But you understand at a different level. And when you do that, it's a whole different experience. That's what Torah is. That's what the power of Torah is. Not just, oh, this is interesting, that's interesting, but it has no effect on my life. Just think what you are fulfilling. Imagine at one time there were 4 generations at the Seder. Great-grandfather, grandfather, father, and a son. 4 generations. Imagine what the discussion is and goes on in the middle of the night about the exodus from Egypt, about the plagues, about what Elijah the prophet represents, the ultimate redemption, not just the redemption from Egypt. And you worked hard, cleaning the house of any chametz, but you're into it. You're like going out of your mind. As you sing Hallel. At the Seder, maybe you still have to sleep, maybe the wine's getting to you. Okay. Then you get to eat all that matzah. Even better. But imagine what that knowledge does. But it's all about preparation. If you don't prepare, you don't get it. You lose it. But you see, you have to love what you do. And you have to give that over to your wife, to your kids. It's got to be exciting, even if it's hard. Because that's how it gets passed down. Right? If it's given over how hard it is, how difficult it is, kids aren't going to want it. They're not going to be interested. You got to get everyone involved at their level. Teach them at their level. How enjoyable it is. But it starts with you. It starts with opening yourself up and say, God, I want this help. I want this knowledge. Help me gain this knowledge. And help it stay fresh. Help me want to live it. Help me want to do anything to keep it and not transgress it. Don't allow me to fall in the trap of doing things by rote. Of learning like it's a mathematical subject. Point me in the right direction, the right people to inspire me. To advise me. To go in the right direction. When you ask for help, God sends the right people. May not be me, could be somebody else. Right? Whoever it is, God sends the right people. But a person has to ask in sincerity. It's something you have to really want. And all you have to do is open up yourself a little bit. And that opens up all the doors. And all the channels. To the fear of God. To the love of God. To want to almost go outside your neshama. Because you're so excited about what Torah is. And it's catching. You want to give it over. But you got to do it the right way. You got to prepare. You got to learn about the holidays and what it means. Right? Then you have to live it. And then you have to forget about everything else going on in the world. And take all this to heart. And put yourself in another plane. Put yourself on another planet, so to speak. Because you absolutely love what you do. And if it's done right, the way it should be, all things being equal, your kids flourish. And they give it over to their kids. And that's exactly what's supposed to be. I've seen the good and the bad. I've seen when it works well, it's unbelievable. When it fails, all the way to the ground. But it starts with you. It starts with preparation. It starts with learning. It starts with changing your mentality. About loving what we do, living it, being a part of it, and as I would always say, making it real. Not just making it part of your everyday life, but whistling Dixie while you're doing it. Because it's such an unbelievable experience. Even the most mundane thing you may learn can open up worlds, can open up doors, and can transform a person into who they need to become. I want to remind everybody that I have a class every Tuesday night on duties of the heart. We're learning Shar B'Tachon, about faith and belief in God and how God runs the world when it comes to livelihood and other things. I also have a question and answer session twice a week, every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock in the morning New York time, or 5 o'clock in the afternoon Israel time. And I have conversion classes twice a week, and a class in the book of Leviticus anyone can come to. That's on Sunday, 9 o'clock. We're in Leviticus chapter 10, still going through the sin of Nadav and Avihu. And you can find me on Facebook, Beyond Orthodox Conversion to Judaism. And if you want to send me an email, send me an email at rabbichaimkoffman@gmail.com. RABBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. Wishing everyone a great Shabbos.